In today's video, we'll explore 25 of the most common RBT registered behavior technician interview questions and answers you'll be asked by hiring managers during your interview. Each answer can be customized to highlight your unique qualifications and experiences. Before your interview, it's important to research the company and review the job description so you can incorporate key skills relevant to the job role in your answers. Question number 1. Why do you want to work as a registered behavior technician? Hiring managers ask this question to understand your motivation and whether you genuinely connect with the role beyond just needing a job. They want to see that you understand what an RBT actually does day to day and that you're prepared for both the rewarding and challenging aspects of the work. Focus on your interest in helping individuals with autism or developmental needs, your patience, and your willingness to follow structured plans like ABA. Strong answers also show long-term interest in the field and a desire to grow, not just short-term employment. I want to work as a registered behavior technician because I'm genuinely drawn to roles where I can make a meaningful, day-to-day impact on someone's life. What stands out to me about this role is the structure and purpose behind ABA. You're not just reacting, you're following a plan designed to help someone build real-life skills and independence over time. I've always had a lot of patience, and I enjoy working in environments where consistency matters, even if progress is gradual. I also understand that this role can be challenging, especially when dealing with difficult behaviors, but I see that as part of the responsibility, not something to avoid. I'm motivated by the idea of being part of a client's progress, even in small steps, like improved communication or reduced frustration. Over time, I'd like to grow within this field, continue learning from supervisors, and become someone who families and clients can rely on for consistency, professionalism, and genuine care. Question number 2. What do you know about applied behavior analysis, ABA? Hiring managers ask this to check if you understand the foundation of the role and whether you can connect theory to real-world application. They are not expecting textbook definitions, but they do want to hear that you understand how ABA is used to teach skills and reduce challenging behaviors. Focus on key ideas like reinforcement, data collection, and consistency. Strong answers show that you understand your role in following a plan designed by a BCBA and implementing it accurately. I understand applied behavior analysis, or ABA, as a structured and evidence-based approach used to help individuals learn new skills and reduce behaviors that may interfere with daily life. At its core, it focuses on understanding why a behavior is happening and then using strategies like reinforcement to encourage more positive behaviors. From what I've learned, consistency and data collection are a big part of ABA because progress is measured over time, not just based on one session. As an RBT, my role would be to follow the behavior intervention plan created by a BCBA, implement strategies during sessions, and collect accurate data to track progress. I also understand that ABA is very individualized, meaning each client's program is tailored to their needs, which requires attention to detail and flexibility. Overall, I see ABA as a way to create meaningful, measurable improvements in a client's independence and quality of life. Question number 3. How do you handle aggressive or self-injurious behavior? Hiring managers ask this to see if you can stay calm, follow protocols, and prioritize safety in high-pressure situations. They are looking for someone who does not react emotionally, but instead follows the behavior plan and remains consistent. Your answer should highlight patience, awareness of triggers, and the importance of safety for both the client and yourself. It's also important to show that you understand your role is to follow established procedures, not improvise. When handling aggressive or self-injurious behavior, my first priority is always safety. For the client, myself, and anyone nearby, I would rely on the behavior intervention plan provided and follow it exactly, rather than reacting based on emotion in the moment. I understand that these behaviors usually serve a purpose, such as gaining attention or escaping a task, so it's important to stay calm and not reinforce the behavior unintentionally. I would use strategies like redirecting the client, reducing demands if appropriate, and reinforcing positive alternatives when the client begins to regulate. At the same time, I would be mindful of any known triggers and try to prevent escalation when possible. After the situation, I would ensure accurate data is recorded so the BCBA can review and adjust the plan if needed. Overall, I focus on being consistent, patient, and supportive while maintaining a safe and structured environment. Question number 4. Describe a time you dealt with a difficult child or client. Hiring managers ask this to evaluate how you handle real-life challenges, especially situations that require patience, adaptability, and emotional control. They want to see that you don't take behavior personally and that you can stay focused on solutions rather than reacting emotionally. A strong answer shows your ability to remain calm, identify what might be driving the behavior, and adjust your approach. Even if the example isn't from an ABA setting, they are looking for transferable skills like patience, consistency, and problem solving. In a previous role, I worked with a child who would become very resistant whenever it was time to transition from a preferred activity to a non-preferred one, like stopping playtime to start homework. Instead of forcing the transition, which usually made things worse, I took a step back and tried to understand what was triggering the reaction. I started giving clear, simple warnings before transitions, like a 5-minute and 1-minute reminder, and paired that with something positive to look forward to afterward. I also kept my tone calm and consistent, even when the child became upset, so I didn't escalate the situation further. Over time, the resistance decreased and the transitions became smoother. That experience taught me the importance of patience, preparation, and consistency. I've learned that challenging behavior is often communication, and when you respond thoughtfully instead of reacting emotionally, you can create better outcomes. Question number 5. How would you respond if a client refused to participate? Hiring managers ask this to see if you understand how to manage non-compliance without escalating the situation. They are looking for someone who can stay calm, avoid power struggles, and follow structured strategies rather than forcing participation. Your answer should show that you understand the importance of reinforcement, flexibility, and identifying the reason behind the refusal. Strong candidates focus on guiding the client back into participation in a supportive and structured way. If a client refused to participate, I would first stay calm and avoid turning it into a power struggle. I understand that refusal often happens for a reason, such as the task being too difficult, lack of motivation, or the client wanting to avoid something. I would follow the behavior plan in place and use strategies like offering choices, breaking the task into smaller steps, or pairing the task with something the client enjoys. For example, I might say, "Let's try one small part together, and then you can have a short break." I would also be mindful of my tone and body language, keeping things positive and supportive. If the refusal continued, I would ensure I'm not reinforcing the behavior unintentionally and document what happened so the BCBA can review it. My goal would always be to guide the client back into participation while maintaining a respectful and structured environment. Question number 6. What is positive reinforcement and how have you used it? Hiring managers ask this to assess your understanding of one of the core principles of ABA and whether you can apply it in real situations. They want to see that you know reinforcement is about increasing desired behaviors, not just rewarding randomly. A strong answer explains the concept clearly and gives a practical example of how it has been used effectively. Focus on timing, consistency, and choosing reinforcement that is meaningful to the individual. I understand positive reinforcement as adding something meaningful or rewarding immediately after a desired behavior to increase the likelihood that the behavior will happen again. It's not just about giving rewards, but about being intentional with timing and making sure the reinforcement is actually motivating for that specific individual. In a previous setting, I worked with a child who struggled to stay focused during short tasks. I noticed they were very motivated by praise and small rewards like stickers, so I began reinforcing even brief moments of focus right away. For example, after completing a small part of the task, I would provide immediate praise and a sticker, which helped build momentum. Over time, I gradually increased expectations as their focus improved. This experience showed me how powerful, consistent, and meaningful reinforcement can be in shaping behavior and helping someone succeed. Question number 7. How do you stay calm in stressful situations? Hiring managers ask this to see if you can manage your emotions in a role that can be unpredictable and demanding. They are looking for someone who can stay composed, think clearly, and follow procedures even when things escalate. A strong answer should show self-awareness, practical strategies you use to stay calm, and your ability to remain focused on the client rather than reacting emotionally. It also helps to show that you understand how your energy can impact the client's behavior. In stressful situations, I focus on staying grounded and reminding myself that my reaction can directly influence the outcome. I've learned that when I stay calm, it helps de-escalate the situation and creates a sense of stability for the client. I usually take a quick mental pause to assess what's happening instead of reacting right away, which allows me to follow the appropriate plan rather than act on impulse. I also rely heavily on structure. Knowing the behavior plan and sticking to it gives me confidence, even in high-pressure moments. Outside of work, I make sure I manage stress by staying organized and maintaining a routine, so I'm mentally prepared when challenges come up. In the moment, I keep my tone neutral, my body language relaxed, and focus on the next best step rather than the entire situation. This approach helps me stay consistent, which is critical in this type of role. Question number 8. How do you build rapport with children with autism? Hiring managers ask this to determine whether you understand the importance of trust and connection in working with clients. They want to see that you're patient, observant, and willing to meet the child where they are rather than forcing interaction. Strong answers highlight the importance of following the child's interests, being consistent, and creating a positive and safe environment. Rapport is often what makes all other interventions effective, so this is a key competency. Building rapport with children with autism starts with patience and observation. I focus on learning what the child enjoys and how they communicate, even if it's nonverbal. Instead of immediately introducing demands, I spend time pairing myself with positive experiences, like engaging in activities they already like or simply being present in a way that feels safe and non-intrusive. I keep my tone calm, my expectations realistic, and I move at the child's pace so they don't feel overwhelmed. Consistency is also important. Showing up the same way each time helps build trust over time. I also celebrate small moments, like eye contact or shared attention, because those are meaningful steps in building connection. Once that trust is established, it becomes much easier to introduce learning opportunities. For me, rapport is not something you rush. It's something you build intentionally so the client feels comfortable, understood, and supported. Question number 9. What would you do if a parent questioned your approach? Hiring managers ask this to assess your professionalism, communication skills, and ability to stay within your role. They want to see that you respect parents while also understanding that treatment decisions come from the BCBA. A strong answer shows that you can listen without becoming defensive, communicate respectfully, and redirect appropriately while maintaining boundaries. It's important to show that you value collaboration but also understand your scope of responsibility. If a parent questioned my approach, I would first listen carefully and acknowledge their concern without becoming defensive. I understand that parents want the best for their child, and their perspective is important. I would explain what I'm doing in a clear and simple way, focusing on the goals of the session and how the strategy supports their child's progress. At the same time, I recognize that as an RBT, I'm implementing a plan designed by a BCBA, so I would avoid making independent changes or promises. If the concern required more detailed discussion or adjustments, I would let the parent know that I will communicate their feedback to the BCBA so it can be properly reviewed. My goal would be to maintain trust and professionalism while staying within my role. I believe that open, respectful communication helps build a stronger partnership with families and ultimately leads to better outcomes for the client. Question number 10. How do you handle burnout or emotional stress? In this role, hiring managers ask this to see if you are realistic about the emotional demands of the job and whether you have healthy strategies to stay consistent over time. They want someone who can recognize stress early and manage it without letting it affect client care. A strong answer shows self-awareness, accountability, and practical ways you reset and maintain balance. It also helps to show that you understand consistency matters even when the work feels challenging. I handle burnout and emotional stress by being proactive rather than waiting until I feel overwhelmed. I recognize that this role can be emotionally demanding, so I make it a priority to check in with myself regularly and stay aware of my energy levels. During sessions, I stay focused on being present and consistent for the client, even if I'm having a tough day, because I understand how important stability is for them. Outside of work, I create a routine that helps me reset, like staying organized, getting enough rest, and giving myself time to decompress. I also believe in using supervision appropriately, so if I notice patterns that are draining or challenging, I communicate with my BCBA to get guidance rather than letting it build up. I remind myself why I chose this field and focus on the small wins, like a client making progress, which keeps me motivated. Over time, I've learned that managing stress is not about avoiding it, but about handling it in a way that allows me to stay effective and consistent. Question number 11. What experience do you have working with individuals with autism? Hiring managers ask this to understand your level of direct exposure and how comfortable you are in real-world situations. They are looking for specific examples that show patience, adaptability, and an understanding of how to support individuals with different needs. If you have experience, they want to see how you applied it. If you don't, they want to see transferable skills and genuine effort to learn. First, here's an answer for someone who has experience working with individuals with autism. I have experience working with individuals with autism in structured and unstructured environments, where I supported them with daily routines, communication, and behavior management. In one situation, I worked with a child who had difficulty with transitions and would become frustrated when moving between activities. I focused on creating predictability by using simple cues and maintaining a consistent approach, which helped reduce resistance over time. I also paid close attention to how the child communicated even when it wasn't verbal, so I could respond appropriately and build trust. I've learned that flexibility is key because what works one day may need to be adjusted the next. Beyond direct interaction, I made sure to stay patient and avoid taking behaviors personally, understanding that they often serve a purpose. These experiences helped me develop a calm, consistent approach and reinforce the importance of meeting each individual where they are to support meaningful progress. Next, here's an answer for someone who has no or very little experience working with individuals with autism. I don't have direct professional experience working with individuals with autism yet, but I've developed relevant skills through working in environments that required patience, structure, and strong communication. For example, I've worked in roles where I had to guide individuals through tasks, stay calm under pressure, and adapt my approach based on different personalities and needs. I've also taken time to learn about autism and ABA principles, so I can understand how to support clients effectively. I understand that behaviors often communicate a need, and I approach situations with patience and curiosity rather than frustration. I'm very open to feedback and see this as a field where learning never stops. While I may be new to the role, I'm confident in my ability to stay consistent, follow direction, and build trust with clients. I'm motivated to grow quickly and become someone who can provide reliable and supportive care. Question number 12. How do you take accurate data during sessions? Hiring managers ask this to assess your attention to detail and your understanding of how critical data is in ABA. They want to see that you can stay engaged with the client while still accurately tracking behavior. A strong answer highlights organization, consistency, and your ability to follow the data collection methods provided. It should also show that you understand how data directly impacts treatment decisions. I take accurate data during sessions by staying organized, focused, and consistent with the method outlined in the client's program. I understand that data is essential because it directly impacts how the BCBA evaluates progress and makes decisions, so accuracy is a priority. During sessions, I make sure I clearly understand what behaviors I'm tracking and how they are defined so I don't make assumptions in the moment. I stay attentive to the client while also being mindful of recording information in real time whenever possible, rather than relying on memory later. If I need to, I use brief, efficient notes to make sure I don't miss key details. I also double-check my entries when appropriate to ensure consistency. If something is unclear, I ask for clarification rather than guessing. Over time, I've found that building a routine around data collection helps me stay efficient without losing focus on the client, allowing me to balance engagement with accuracy effectively. Question number 13. What would you do if you made a mistake during a session. Hiring managers ask this to evaluate your accountability and professionalism. They want to see that you can recognize mistakes quickly, take responsibility, and correct them without letting it impact the client negatively. A strong answer shows honesty, willingness to learn, and understanding of how important consistency is in ABA. It's also important to show that you would communicate appropriately rather than trying to hide the mistake. If I made a mistake during a session, my first priority would be to correct it as quickly and calmly as possible so it doesn't affect the client's progress. I understand that mistakes can happen, especially in a fast-paced environment, but what matters most is how you respond to them. I would follow the correct procedure immediately once I recognize the error and make sure the client is back on track with the intended plan. I would also document the situation accurately and inform my BCBA or supervisor so they are aware and can provide guidance if needed. I see feedback as an opportunity to improve, so I would take time afterward to reflect on what led to the mistake and how I can prevent it in the future. I focus on staying transparent, accountable, and solution-oriented because maintaining trust and consistency is critical in this role and directly impacts the quality of care the client receives over time. Question number 14. How do you handle feedback from a board-certified behavior analyst supervisor? Hiring managers ask this to understand how coachable you are and whether you can take direction without becoming defensive. They are looking for someone who values feedback as part of growth and can apply it quickly in sessions. A strong answer shows openness, professionalism, and the ability to turn feedback into action. It also helps to show that you understand supervision is a key part of maintaining quality care. I handle feedback from a BCBA supervisor by viewing it as a key part of my growth rather than criticism. I understand that their role is to ensure the client is receiving the best possible care, so I take their guidance seriously. When I receive feedback, I listen carefully, ask clarifying questions if needed, and make sure I fully understand what changes are expected. I focus on applying the feedback immediately in my next session so it becomes part of my routine. I also make a conscious effort to reflect on patterns so I'm not repeating the same mistakes. I appreciate when supervisors provide specific examples because it helps me adjust more effectively. At the same time, I remain open and professional, even if the feedback is challenging to hear because I know it ultimately benefits the client. Over time, I've found that being receptive and consistent with feedback builds trust with supervisors and leads to stronger outcomes for clients. Question number 15. What would you do if a client was not making progress? Hiring managers ask this to assess your problem-solving mindset and your understanding of your role within a treatment team. They want to see that you don't get discouraged or try to make independent changes outside your scope. A strong answer shows that you remain consistent, rely on data, and communicate effectively with the BCBA. It should also highlight patience and your commitment to the client's long-term success. If a client was not making progress, I would first make sure I am implementing the behavior plan exactly as designed, because consistency is critical in ABA. I would review how I'm delivering instructions, reinforcement, and prompts to ensure everything is aligned with the plan. At the same time, I would focus on collecting accurate and detailed data so the BCBA has a clear picture of what's happening during sessions. I understand that lack of progress doesn't always mean failure. It can signal that adjustments are needed. I would communicate my observations to the BCBA, including any patterns I've noticed, such as specific triggers or times when the client struggles more. I would avoid making independent changes and instead rely on guidance from the supervisor. Throughout the process, I would stay patient and continue to support the client consistently, knowing that progress can take time. My goal would be to stay reliable, provide clear information, and contribute to finding a solution that benefits the client. Question number 16. How do you ensure you follow a behavior intervention plan correctly? Hiring managers ask this to see if you can be consistent, detail-oriented, and reliable when implementing structured plans. They want someone who understands that even small deviations can impact a client's progress. A strong answer shows that you prepare before sessions, stay focused during implementation, and seek clarification when needed. It should also reflect that you respect your role in following the BCBA's direction rather than improvising. I ensure I follow a behavior intervention plan correctly by preparing ahead of each session and making sure I fully understand the goals, procedures, and definitions outlined in the plan. Before starting, I review the specific strategies I'll be using so I can implement them confidently and consistently. During sessions, I stay focused on delivering instructions, prompts, and reinforcement exactly as described without adding or changing anything on my own. If something feels unclear, I don't guess. I ask my BCBA for clarification so I can stay aligned with expectations. I also pay close attention to how the client responds, not to change the plan, but to ensure I'm applying it as intended. After sessions, I reflect on my performance and look for areas where I can improve my consistency. I understand that progress depends on accurate implementation, so I treat the plan as a guide that I follow closely, knowing that my consistency plays a direct role in the client's success over time. Question number 17. Describe a time you worked as part of a team. Hiring managers ask this to evaluate your ability to collaborate, communicate, and contribute to a shared goal. In an RBT role, you'll be working closely with BCBAs, other therapists, and families, so teamwork is essential. A strong answer shows that you can listen, adapt, and support others while staying focused on the client. It should also highlight accountability and clear communication. In a previous role, I worked as part of a team where we supported individuals with different needs, and communication was key to maintaining consistency. One situation that stands out involved coordinating with others to ensure a smooth routine for a client who struggled with changes. We shared updates regularly, discussed what strategies were working, and made sure we were all aligned in how we approached interactions. I made it a point to listen to feedback from team members and contribute my observations so we could make informed decisions together. There were times when we had different perspectives, but we always focused on what would benefit the client the most rather than personal preferences. I stayed accountable by following through on agreed strategies and communicating any changes or concerns right away. That experience taught me how important it is to stay flexible, respectful, and consistent within a team, because when everyone works together effectively, it creates a more stable and supportive environment for the client. Question number 18. How do you handle non-compliance during a session? Hiring managers ask this to assess how you manage challenging situations without escalating them. They are looking for someone who understands that non-compliance is often a form of communication and requires a structured, calm response. A strong answer shows that you avoid power struggles, use strategies like reinforcement and task modification, and follow the behavior plan consistently. When handling non-compliance during a session, I focus on staying calm and avoiding any type of power struggle. I understand that non-compliance usually has a reason, such as the task being too difficult, lack of motivation, or the client trying to avoid something. I follow the behavior intervention plan and use strategies like breaking tasks into smaller manageable steps or offering choices to give the client a sense of control. I also use positive reinforcement to encourage even small steps toward participation so the client feels successful rather than overwhelmed. My tone and body language remain neutral and supportive because I know reacting emotionally can escalate the situation. If the behavior continues, I make sure I'm not unintentionally reinforcing it and continue to follow the plan consistently. I also take note of patterns so I can share useful information with the BCBA. My goal is always to guide the client back to engagement in a structured and respectful way. Question number 19. What would you do in an emergency situation with a client? Hiring managers ask this to ensure you prioritize safety and can respond appropriately under pressure. They want someone who understands the importance of following protocols and not acting impulsively. A strong answer shows awareness, calm decision-making, and a clear understanding of when to seek help. It should also reflect that you would follow training and company procedures. In an emergency situation with a client, my first priority would always be safety for everyone involved. I would stay as calm as possible so I can think clearly and follow the appropriate procedures rather than reacting impulsively. I would rely on the training and protocols provided, whether that involves removing the client from danger, using approved safety techniques, or calling for assistance. I understand the importance of acting quickly but also correctly, so I would avoid making decisions outside of my training. At the same time, I would be aware of my surroundings and make sure other individuals are safe as well. Once the situation is under control, I would document everything accurately and report it to my supervisor so it can be reviewed and addressed if needed. I believe staying calm, following protocol, and communicating clearly are key in emergencies, because those actions help ensure the best possible outcome for the client and everyone involved. Question number 20. How do you maintain professional boundaries with families? Hiring managers ask this to ensure you understand the importance of professionalism and your role within the treatment team. They want to see that you can build positive relationships without overstepping or becoming too informal. A strong answer shows respect, clear communication, and awareness of your scope of practice. It should also reflect that you can balance being approachable while maintaining structure and consistency. I maintain professional boundaries with families by being respectful, consistent, and clear about my role as an RBT. I understand that while it's important to build trust and have a positive relationship, my responsibility is to implement the treatment plan and not step outside of that scope. I keep communication focused on the client's progress and the session, avoiding personal topics or giving advice that should come from a BCBA. If a parent asks questions beyond my role, I respond professionally and let them know I will pass that information along to the supervisor. I also make sure my tone and interactions remain professional at all times, even when the relationship becomes more comfortable over time. By setting clear boundaries early and maintaining them consistently, I help create a structured and respectful environment. I believe this approach builds trust while ensuring that the client continues to receive consistent, high-quality care aligned with the treatment plan. Question number 21. How do you stay organized when managing multiple clients? Hiring managers ask this to assess your time management and ability to stay consistent across different cases. They want to know if you can handle multiple responsibilities without losing attention to detail. A strong answer highlights routines, organization systems, and your ability to prioritize while maintaining quality. It should also show that you understand each client requires individualized attention. I stay organized when managing multiple clients by creating a clear structure for my day and sticking to consistent routines. Before sessions, I review each client's goals and plans, so I'm mentally prepared and not switching mindsets last minute. I use simple systems like checklists or notes to keep track of key details, which helps me stay focused during sessions without missing anything important. I also make sure I complete data collection and documentation promptly, so nothing is left for later, which could lead to errors. Time management is important, so I plan transitions carefully to avoid feeling rushed. At the same time, I stay flexible because each client's needs can change and I adjust without losing overall structure. By staying organized, I'm able to give each client my full attention during their session rather than feeling distracted or overwhelmed, which ultimately leads to more consistent and effective support. Question number 22. What are your strengths as an RBT? Hiring managers ask this to understand what you bring to the role and how your qualities align with the demands of the job. They are looking for strengths like patience, consistency, attention to detail, and communication. A strong answer connects your strengths directly to how they benefit clients and the team rather than just listing traits. My strengths as an RBT include patience, consistency, and strong attention to detail. I'm someone who stays calm even in challenging situations, which helps create a stable environment for clients who rely on routine and predictability. I also take consistency seriously because I understand that even small differences in how a plan is implemented can impact progress. Another strength is my ability to observe and pick up on small changes in behavior, which allows me to respond more effectively and provide useful feedback to the BCBA. I'm also very open to learning and improving, so I actively seek feedback and apply it right away. I take pride in being reliable and showing up prepared for each session, which helps build trust with both clients and the team. Overall, my strengths allow me to provide structured, supportive, and consistent care that contributes to meaningful progress over time. Question number 23. What is your greatest weakness as an RBT? Hiring managers ask this to evaluate your self-awareness and willingness to improve. They are not looking for perfection, but for honesty and a clear plan for growth. A strong answer identifies a real weakness while showing how you are actively working to improve it. It should also reassure them that the weakness will not negatively impact your performance long-term. One area I've been working on is not being overly self-critical when things don't go perfectly during a session. I naturally hold myself to a high standard, which can sometimes lead me to overanalyze small mistakes instead of focusing on the bigger picture. I've realized that while attention to detail is important, it's just as important to stay confident and present in the moment. To improve this, I've been focusing on trusting the process, following the plan, and using feedback constructively rather than dwelling on small errors. I also remind myself that progress in this field is gradual, both for the client and for me as a professional. Over time, this has helped me stay more balanced and effective during sessions. I still maintain high standards, but I approach challenges with a more solution-focused mindset, which allows me to stay consistent and continue improving without unnecessary stress. Question number 24. Why should we hire you for this RBT position? Hiring managers ask this to see how well you can summarize your value and differentiate yourself from other candidates. They are looking for confidence, clarity, and alignment with the role. A strong answer should bring together your skills, mindset, and commitment to the field while showing how you will contribute to the team and clients. You should hire me for this RBT position because I bring a combination of patience, consistency, and a strong commitment to learning and growth. I understand that this role requires more than just following instructions. It requires being fully present, paying attention to detail, and staying consistent even when progress takes time. I'm someone who takes responsibility seriously, and I focus on creating a structured and supportive environment for each client. I'm also very open to feedback and see it as an opportunity to improve quickly, which is important in a role that relies on supervision and collaboration. I approach each session with the goal of helping the client succeed, even in small ways, because I know those small steps lead to meaningful progress over time. I'm reliable, professional, and genuinely motivated to make a difference, which I believe makes me a strong fit for this position and your team. And finally, here's the last: Registered Behavior Technician. RBT, interview question and answer. Question number 25. Where do you see yourself in the next few years in this field? Hiring managers ask this to understand your long-term interest and whether you see this role as part of a career path. They want to know if you are likely to stay and grow within the field. A strong answer shows ambition while still being realistic and aligned with the role. It should also reflect a desire to continue learning and improving. In the next few years, I see myself growing within the field by becoming more confident and skilled in delivering consistent, high-quality support to clients. My immediate focus is on mastering the RBT role, understanding different behavior plans, improving my data collection, and learning how to adapt to each client's needs effectively. As I gain more experience, I'd like to continue building my knowledge of ABA and take on more responsibility within the team. I'm also open to pursuing further education or certification in the future, potentially working toward becoming a BCBA, because I'm interested in being more involved in designing and overseeing treatment plans. At the same time, I value the hands-on aspect of working directly with clients, so I want to continue developing strong relationships and making a meaningful impact. Overall, I see this as a long-term career path where I can grow, contribute, and continue making a difference. If you want to learn more on how to land jobs and reach your career goals, don't forget to hit that subscribe and bell notification button to get new videos every single week. Also, don't forget to hit that like button because that motivates me to keep doing what I do. Stay safe, keep smiling, and good luck.